Hello, everybody. This is Lucia Christian. I am your host for this second webinar organized under the Time to Act for Rural Mobility. This is a webinar within a series of, let's say, virtual events organized by the SMARTA Project. If my colleagues can go further on the screen, thank you very much. This is a few words about the, let's say, to familiarize you with the platform. We are using the GoToMeeting platform, GoToWebinar, platform. And if you would like to interact with us, please use the question button as is seen on the, as you can see on the screen, or please answer to the poll questions when we will pop up on the screen. There will be only 2 or 3 of them, so please do not be worried that we'll have a lot of questions. We will try to answer to your questions during the webinar, but in case we cannot do it, we take all of your questions and we reply offline. I'll announce that all the presentations and the video of this webinar will be uploaded on our website. Now, if we go further on, Doina, thank you very much. This is very interesting that this webinar is organized, as I mentioned, in a series of webinars within the SMARTA project. About the SMARTA project, you heard in the first webinar, from my colleagues from Andrea Lorenzini. We tried in the first webinar to give a spectrum of issues related on rural mobility and what is happening at this moment in rural mobility. We tried to have some guests to present initiatives for rural communities to put together the ideas and efforts to push a bit more the rural mobility on the agenda. The second webinar, where you find out more and you are present here, thank you very much, in a very good number. You will find practical aspects of how you design, how you start thinking about a rural mobility scheme, and how you start implementing it, and what are the issues and challenges and the success factors for this. And as I said, that is in a series. A third webinar will be organized in 2 weeks' time, but I will say a bit more about it. But I'll tell you, it's already organized, and it's a very, very interesting one, looking at aspects of people that are working like this, social aspects of people, how people in local communities, those ones that are coming in the rural communities or are simply visitors, are influencing the lifestyle in rural areas. Without saying too much, I can ask my colleagues to put a quick question on the screen if it's possible. Now, why we wanted to put this question, and please will allow you a few seconds to reply, is because we have quite a large audience. At this particular moment, we have 115 people registered to this webinar, which is a very good turnout in a moment that is we are all virtual meeting virtual. It's a very good turnout, but it's very interesting for us to understand who are interested in rural mobility. Yeah, I think the poll is still in progress. We will wait 2 more seconds. If you can answer to this one, then we can stop it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I have to say that this webinar is organized from different countries. Can we have the results? Perfect. Thank you very much. It's very interesting that majority of the persons that are in the webinar are working or in rural development or rural mobility, or have a very good interest in rural issues. Thank you very much for this. This will help us very much to understand who is our audience. In the same time, I would like to say that as mentioned earlier, the webinar is organized from different countries, and you will have presentations from all over Europe, and the attendance to this webinar is all over the world. We have people from South America, from US, from Australia, from Asia, yes, and from Africa, not only Europe. So we have a very, very good interest to this subject. Now, allow me to introduce you my colleagues Andrea Lorenzini and Brendan Finn of MEMEX, that they will go very briefly through SMARTA projects to give, for those that haven't been in the first webinar in the last 2 weeks, if they weren't attending, to understand what is SMARTA and why we are here for, and how we would like to work with yourselves. So thank you very much. I pass on the microphone and the video to my colleague Andrea, and then to Brandon. Good luck.
Hello. Yeah, thank you very much, Lucia. I hope you can see my screen now. So, yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, a few words of introduction for the SMARTA projects for those who may not be familiar with it, and then I leave the floor to Brendan that will explain the objective of this webinar. So the SMARTA project is one of the most interesting initiatives for rural mobility. It is directly sponsored by the European Parliament and funded through DG Move. And our aim is to ensure sustainable mobility by improving shared mobility integrated with public transport. Here a picture of the SMARTA consortium, which is led by MEMEX and by myself, Giorgio, and Brendan, which are the coordinator of the project. And then there are 5 partner vectors: TML, EAP, and University of Aberdeen. In a slide, I try to summarize the main project activities that are can be grouped in 3 major strands. The first is the research part that has been concluded now, made an analysis of the insight paper and good practices, and I invite you to go to our website to see what are these about. There is a demonstration phase where we collaborate with a number of pilot sites, and this is the aim of this webinar. And there is the third standard, it's our engagement. So we are engaging with different stakeholders addressing rural mobility for developing a set of policy recommendation and guidelines targeting different stakeholders, and you can see from this slide. Just to introduce about the rural shared mobility landscape, this is the Athomium that we developed, trying to group what are the shared mobility services possible to be implemented in the rural area. At the center, you can see the conventional public transport by bus and rail, and then all the other kind of services spanning from flexible to ride sharing and asset sharing services. And few slides for introducing the network of our site, and then we can proceed. These are 5 sites that we have engaged in the last few months. That developed different shared mobility solution and services. We cover different countries. There is Germany with Bugerbus initiative, Toscana Sud in Italy, the Hero department in France, and Kilkenny in Ireland. And you can see afterwards there will be 3 presentations and speakers that will talk a little bit about that. There are other 4 sites that have been engaged as well through also the collaboration with the European Commission. There is one, Christina from Trikala, that will tell you about the story of this pilot in Greece, and there are 3 other sites in Brasov, Romania, East Tyrol in Austria, and Agda in Portugal. And other 5 sites, and again we have 2 afterwards with Marianne and Eva and Xilev that will tell you something about their experience. There is Vejle in Denmark, Vizeme in Latvia, Bieskobal in Poland, Groningen Drenthe in Netherlands, and Valirana in Spain. So in a nutshell, we developed this kind of network with 14 different mobility practices in 13 different countries. And as you can see there, we have been able to ensure a good coverage, not only about the shared mobility schemes, but also about the European countries. So that will be all for my intervention, and I would like to leave the floor to Brendan for continuing.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Just introduce myself briefly. My name is Brendan Finn. I'm joining from Ireland for this webinar, and I'll be moderating the rest of the sessions that are going to come along. We're using the phrase pilots. Maybe we can move on to the next slide, please, Andrea. And sometimes that causes a little bit of confusion because people are thinking, oh, pilots, it's a small thing. If I just at the bottom of the slide, an implementation project of any kind can also serve as a pilot or a demonstrator. Basically, it's something from which we can learn. So you may implement it for one purpose, but we can see that we leverage a lot more from it. So typically you would implement something to, first of all, to serve the needs, the travel needs of people, or to test concepts, technologies, improve your methods, learning by doing, work with your customers and try to figure out what they want. But when you do that, you can also learn a lot more, that stakeholders can understand the concepts and their relevance. Maybe some of the political layer stakeholders get some buy-in. How would they include this in their policies and so forth? And it can be a wayfinding for how can I move from what I implemented initially into something more substantial. And we have a number of different learning methods from pilots. Basic things as usual, measurement of various indicators, interviews, comparing the actual outcomes with the original expectations. So it's not only learning what happened, but learning for ourselves about our ability to forecast and foresee and to improve things. And one of the biggest parts of this is sharing experience and learning from other pilots. Next slide, please, Andrea. Now, within the SMARTA project and jointly as well with the SMARTA 2 colleagues, we have an evaluation framework. And it's a little bit complicated or complex, but that's because it's trying to measure complex things. But if we get to the basics, we do evaluation because we want to answer questions. And they tend to be significant questions such as, what we've implemented, is it actually solving the problem? Is it achieving what we set out to do? Should we continue to run it? Should we implement it somewhere else? How much would it cost us if we actually made this part of our policy? So there's three basic sets of questions we ask. First of all, what were the actual results? Just what were the facts? Good things, bad things, and so forth, things we can measure. But the second is we try to understand what were the reasons behind these results. Did things turn out as we expected? If so, why? If not, why not? Maybe we got different users, maybe things worked out a bit differently. But we try to understand the reasons. And then we go to the third level is, can this be replicated within the same area? We could open a second or third route, we could increase the number of vehicles, or within another area in the same region or country, or indeed even across countries. So that's really the feasibility. And we've structured an evaluation framework working with the set of pilots or sites that Andrea introduced to learn these and consolidate them into a common learning. Next slide, please, Andrea. And if we move now to sharing experience, one of the things we had really hoped when we were going to do this workshop as a physical event in Brussels at the beginning of May was that we would bring people together. And we had anticipated that those of you who were speaking and many of those who are joining us virtually, that we would be able to meet, maybe take lunch, dinner together, talk to each other and to network. This is really important for rural mobility sites where you may not have so many opportunities and you can build relationships. The second benefit that comes from this is learning, getting access to new ideas for free, may I add, because you're sharing the information among yourselves, ways you can improve your efficiency, finding out some of the information about the costs, the take-up rates, maybe even benchmark yourself, and what methods are being used for marketing and outreach. The other part of it is the problem solving. How do you deal with the challenges that you face? And in this way, by sharing experience, you're not alone, that you can learn from others who've done the same thing. And the fourth and very important part of it is the convincing, that by gathering the information from other places, it puts you in a stronger position to convince stakeholders, influencers, and even skeptics that what you're proposing or what you have implemented actually works and works well in other places as well. So that's just a brief introduction from Andrea and myself about what we mean by sites and pilots and why we're inviting everybody to come together in this forum. So if I move on now to the way we organize it, we decided that we would try to bring the sites together, but to cluster it in two phases. The first we'll do over the next 45 minutes is what we call the mobilization phase. So that's basically everything that it takes to get to the point where you can implement a project. Identifying needs, the strategy, building consensus, overcoming barriers, all the other things you need to do. And for that, we will have presentations from Kilkenny, from Declan Rice, from the Burgerbus at Dreisem-Stromer, from Stefan, and from Vejle in Denmark, from Marianne. And those three will discuss the mobilization phase. And then we have a discussion. And then we move into a second session where we deal more with the operational phase. It's okay, you got yourself ready, but now you have to do it and implement it. The service model, the technologies, the launch, the marketing, all of these kind of things. And for this, we will have three more presentations, one from Toscano Sud, Claudio will present that. From Trikala, we have Christina, and from Valorana, we actually have two speakers. We have Eva and Shilef, and we have a video as well. So that sets us up now for our first session. And for this, I would like to invite, first of all, Declan Rice from Kilkenny to make the first presentation. Declan is the Chief Executive with Kilkenny Leader Partnership, based in Kilkenny City and Kilkenny County. And he has a very strong interest in the rural mobility. In fact, a lot of what's happening in Kilkenny wouldn't have happened without Declan and KLP's push. They were very much behind getting the so-called Ring-a-Link in place almost 20 years ago now, which provides a lot of mobility services in the area. And now they're putting another big push about integrating the various services within the county. And at this point, I'll pass it over to Declan to tell you more. And please, 10 minutes exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Brendan. I appreciate that. And I'm just making sure that I can do the 10 minutes by putting on a timer there. Appreciate the opportunity. So I'm bringing up my PowerPoint here now as we speak. I hope you can see that. And just to say a little bit, this is very much a partnership approach from a number of stakeholders, mostly in Kilkenny, but also from the near region. We call it, and we've called it in the last few days, we have to give it a title, KIMI, or Kilkenny Integrated Mobility Modes Initiative. The aim is quite simple: the integration of fixed route conventional public bus services with flexible demand responsive transport, DRT, community focused modes. The area in focus is County Kilkenny. It's a county in Ireland, a rural county with a population of 100,000, one large town, supposedly a city, but really a town, and numerous small towns and villages. And the approach was to use real-time passenger information, or TPI, both hardware and software, to link a national bus carrier, a private carrier, JJ Kavanagh Coaches, one of the biggest in the country, the biggest in the country, and a community transport company, Ring-a-Link, which also happens to be one of the largest of that type in the country. And we said a bit about both. Why, when, what, how? Well, firstly, KLP, a Kilkenny Leader Partnership, was founded in 1991. We're a leader company. We were one of the first of the leader companies in the first tranche. So we're an NGO, a local NGO focused on broad-based local rural development or rural development. And I suppose about 20 years ago, we identified poor transport and mobility as a keen source of disadvantage for rural communities and businesses. And we realized that public policy was inadequate to the challenge. It just wasn't the public policy to say what they wanted to do. And this was an area we felt we could help influence and shape. And I have to say, public policy is still a little bit behind the challenge, even as we enter, say, a new decade again, 20 years later. Back then, we mentored the formation of a community-based transport company, Ring-a-Link. I'd like to think that we shaped the initial rural transport initiative, which is a pilot to what is now a mainstream program. Ring-a-Link, of which a number of the parties involved are now probably participating in this webinar, is the biggest and I would say the best of its type in Ireland. So moving back there. And we've continued to focus on mobility over the years. And the last few, we've moved to look at the issue again in an integrated fashion. We've also instigated and led a number of actions to build consensus in large capacity, our own and other people's, and to form partnerships and coalitions to tackle the work, because we realised that we couldn't do it ourselves. In Kilkenny, there's been other transport and mobility initiatives over the years, going back to 1995, the mid-90s SAMPO, which is looking at demand responsive, SAMPlus, the son of SAMPO, you might say, looked at an attenuation of that. Sunrise in 2004-2006, which looked at technological, operational and organisational experience of DRT, and Flipper, which was run in 2009. Ring-a-Link was the main partner in both of those projects. We were just supporting stakeholders. When I say we, I'm talking about the Kilkenny Leader Partnership mostly. Planning and consensus building. We've long recognised from our work in rural development that you can have all the great ideas you want, but unless you bring people with you, unless you assemble a partnership or a coalition, it won't make any difference. So we started a process of reaching back into transport and mobility in 2006, and after a number of local initiatives and contacts, we held what we call a think tank on mobility and transport, and we invited everybody, some of the great and the good, and some of the normal people, to come along and give their views on what was right, what was wrong about transport and mobility in Kilkenny in all its aspects. We obviously had some ideas of our own going into that, and we would have seeded them into discussions, but we let the process take its course. The result of that process was that a number of the partners who attended that, including ourselves, Ring-a-Link, the local energy agency 3CAA, organised and funded an international IROOT conference in the International IROOT conference in June 2017, which had a number of aims, including which was to stimulate new thinking around public transport and develop new networks, plans and projects. IROOT led directly in Kilkenny to the formation of the Kilkenny Integrated Transport Group, and they planned, I suppose, for the two goals which came out of IROOT, and that included KLP, Ring-a-Link, the local authority, Kilkenny County Council, the energy agency, and businesses. And we commissioned then a comprehensive mobility plan, which was a sort of an exhaustive study of the various options. So the KMP, the mobility plan, and the formation of the transport group made this project, KIMI, possible. That's an important thing to say. The IROOT conference was attended by, I'm not quite sure, it was 120 people in Kilkenny Castle, and it was very successful. That's a copy of the comprehensive mobility plan. It's a 185-page report outlining the possible and the paths to it. The formation of the partnership, as I said, was very important. Other steps we have taken in the meantime was to look at partnership with colleagues elsewhere who had the same issue. And through the LEADER program, there is the possibility of a LEADER cooperation project, and we entered into one and consulted with our colleagues in Scotland in the Cairngorm Mountain region and National Park there. And we've developed a project which is continuing at the moment and which feeds into KIMI. And we made a visit there in 2019, and that's a photograph of us all looking a little bit forlorn on a lake shore with snow-covered mountains in the background. That commenced in 2019. That's due to finish at the end of next year or early 2021. Partners and stakeholders, we mentioned some of these already. So in addition to ourselves and Ring-a-Link and County Council and 3CAA, a stakeholder would be JJ Cavan & Sons, who is Ireland's largest coach operator, as they claim, and Tomar Trust, who are a private philanthropy, and they are supporting us through some grant aid very generously. The transport context in Ireland is quite important. The National Transport Authority has a high level of responsibility for policy. However, there's been very little focus on rural transport and even less on integration of local services over the years. They do have responsibility for the likes of Ring-a-Link. Ring-a-Link is one of a number of local agencies called Local Links, confusingly, but they don't have a huge interest in developing a policy there, even though they will eventually, I suppose. So we met with NTA and briefed them on the proposal we had on KIMI, and they agreed cautiously to take a watching brief in the initiative. I suppose we'd be anxious that they would be influencing their policy by the initiative. That would be a goal of the overall project. So not only would we gain some traction as the first mover, that they would take what we say and translate that into policy for not only for Kilkenny, but for the country as a whole. Because we recognise that just Kilkenny having a perfect little model would not be good enough, because you can't exist as a transport structure without networks to your wider region and to the main cities and elsewhere. So we hope that it will provide that model. Kilkenny in context, that's a map of Ireland. I'm sure you've seen that before. And there's Kilkenny in dark green. And you can see there, that map is quite a good summation of what we are. It's a lowland pastoral county, some upland areas. Rivers are a big feature as well. Very brief profile, 100,000 people, 26,500 of them are Kilkenny City, which is really a large town. There are larger towns in Ireland, but Kilkenny City is a city. in the medieval traditional sense, has a charter and all of that stuff. The economy is largely agricultural, food processing, a lot of tourism, a lot of cultural stuff, light engineering, financial administration of late, and creative sector. Animation studios producing movies. Some of them have been in contention for Oscars and that type of stuff as well. Other than the city, the small towns and villages are the main feature. So dispersed in rolling pastoral landscapes. You can see a photograph in the middle there. On the bottom there, tourism is generally focused on city culture and a few rural attractions. Loads of festivals in Kilkenny. But there's lots of potential in rural tourism. And one of the study areas is the Lincoln Valley. And we've chosen that because we're trying to make it, I suppose, as a tourism destination. There's a reasonable road network, the M8 and M9 motorways, both from Dublin, one to Cork, the other to Waterford, to pass through it. There's a single corridor rail link to Dublin and Waterford. Not a huge service, but I suppose it functions, and a lot of minor roads. Okay, the link to Lincoln Valley, that is a map of where the Lincoln Valley is in southwest Kilkenny. That's a close-up map. I'm trying to show you now how the service will operate. Basically, the Lincoln Valley sits in the middle of a triangle between three main tourism centres, Kilkenny and Waterford certainly, and Clonmel to some extent. A lot of heritage sites there, high crosses, ring forts, Pasha's tombs, things like that. Very attractive. It's only 10 square kilometers, 15 square kilometers a mile in area, but it has a lot of interest in that area there. So what we're trying to do is link people from the main centres of tourism, Kilkenny, Waterford, Clonmel, to there and back. And what we're proposing is to have an integration hub, what we call a super stop with RTPI service in that area that people can get from Kilkenny on a conventional bus, change to a flexible bus, see the sites and get back again. So be independent travellers to a degree and be supported. So that'll be the route, and that'll be what you'll be talking about, a flexible route going around there. And we're also now talking about possibilities of cycle routes. So you can see that JJ Kavanagh runs 19 services a day from Kilkenny to Clonmel, and an equivalent amount from Waterford to Clonmel, and also from Waterford on the Dublin Road. So it'll be in the middle of a triangle. And we see that triangle as being serviced, ultimately by this service when it matures. So the initial focus will be on independent travellers and the culturally curious, staying in the Kilkenny's 15 hotels, hoping to benefit rural residents on the backhaul to those towns. And to support and attract visitors, we will also be talking about a small bike car scheme with electric bikes as well as push bikes. And if it's successful, we hope it could be replicated in all of the super stop locations, of which there are 5 in rural areas elsewhere in the county. And beyond the pilot, our pilot that is, so we want to link with all the other operators beyond JJ Kavanagh and Co. to give county coverage. We want to link to all of the small towns, and also to use the basic model of the Clonmel, Waterford, Kilkenny triangle model, and replicate that elsewhere and provide a network or matrix of modes right across the country. And that would be, in our view, replicable everywhere. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Declan. It's a bit unfortunate that in a virtual event you don't get a round of applause after a presentation, so we must see if we can have something recorded for future events. But thank you for that presentation. We'll take any questions and so forth. People can submit them online, as Lucia has already explained, and we'll pick them up in the general discussion section. I'd now like to, you might just turn off your camera and microphone at this stage, please, Declan. And I'd like now for Stefan Salmer to join us. Stefan is with Burgerbus in Dreisenstrommer. He's the coordinator of the community-based transport services in Kirchzarten, and he's the leader of the Burgerbus Local Association in Dreisenstrommer. He coordinated the development of the first service in 2017, and currently he manages the operations of 4 lines that were developed with volunteer drivers. So Stefan, you have 10 minutes, please. Thank you. Stefan, your microphone doesn't seem to be on. Your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, it's now on. Yeah.
I hear you now. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Hello to everybody. I'm Stefan from Kirchzarten, Germany, southern Germany, near Freiburg in the Black Forest, and I'm the chairman of the Dreisam-Stromer Bürgerbus Association. In the presentation, we want to give you a little overview of our experience when we started and where we are today and where we want to go. Yeah.
You may want to share your screen.
Yeah.
You may wish to share your screen. We don't see it yet. Thank you.
You don't see the screen? Do you see the screen now?
I don't anyway.
Donna, can you turn off, take the role of a presenter and give it back to Stefan, just in case? Yeah.
You can see it now, no? Sorry.
Did you receive? No worries. Did you receive the invitation to be a presenter? Just press that button. You have to accept to show your screen.
It's all done, yeah, sure.
Okay. Can I ask my colleagues to turn off and on his role as presenter? Sorry for this. It's always happening something like this.
I don't know
yes.
what's happened. Yeah.
We can take over if it's necessary. Yes. And now, be careful. You receive again an invitation, Stefan.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's not possible,
no.
Yeah, if it's not possible,
yeah,
we can take over the presentation, and you can ask my colleagues to advance the slides. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. It's okay.
Okay, you please start introducing, and my colleagues are preparing these slides for you. Yeah, thank you.
Don't
Sorry
worry,
for
Stefan,
this.
we still have 10 minutes.
Yes. Is it the actual presentation? Okay. No, I'll try it. Yeah, sure. Okay. Let's start. The next charts, please. No. But go further. I would like to go. Yeah, you can see here a little some pictures of the situation, the local situation of Kirchzarten with its hamlets, and it's a central village, and we have about 5 hamlets around. Here you see our bus. Yeah, it's Ford with 8 seats and a space for a wheelchair user. Go next and next. And in the Corona time, we had to make a break of 2 months. So now in the middle of May, we started again, but only in the morning because there are not enough drivers available just now. Yeah. Next. Yeah, you can see here the situation. Go further. Yeah, about 24,000 people live in and around Kirchzarten and in the surrounding towns. You can go further. It's not. Yeah. Next. Next. Yes. Dreisamtal is a really wealthy region. Yeah, many people own 2 cars, And it's not easy to get these people excited about the burger bus. Yeah, we have it, and the main public transport network is also well developed. Therefore, we limit ourselves to the hamlets, yes, and not around the communities. Yeah, go next, please. This is the old presentation. Sorry. Yeah. What is our special about the project is the way we started. It's the creation. In 2014, we emerged from an impulse program of our regional energy provider. And this energy provider asked his suppliers and customers, what would you like to have in the Kreisontal as a further service of our sites? And all the people, we were voting, and then they voted for the burger bus project, and the energy provider provided this project with 25,000 euros in the startup. And in summer 2017, you can go further with the charts. Yes, go ahead. This was an opinion poll, and here the people could decide what they would like to have. And it was the burger bus. Go on, please. Next. Next. Yes, and in summer 2017, we carried out a first test and we rented a bus. It was only a weekend, and as a result, there were further surveys and of the uses of buses, the destinations and the stops people would like to have. And we got many answers, and we placed ads. And go further. One more. This was the opinion poll here about the stops. Next. Next. Yes, this was we placed ads and organized, next picture please, information events around the city. And the next please. And also financial planning. And next. And we looked in other cities about their experience with the burger buses. Yeah. Go please to the next chart. Next. In cooperation with our local bus company, we decided on a full service package. You can see here on the chart, yeah, we pay a kilometer price of 59 cents, and we get everything for this. The bus, the insurance, diesel, the cleaning, maintenance, spare parts, replacement vehicle, and so on. It's a really a good deal. So we don't have to look for the car. It's all done for us. Yeah. Next, please. After test drives with an odometer and stopwatch, we created our first schedule with 4 lines. Please, next. Next. The numbers of people living around Kirchzarten. Go next, please. Next. Next. So this was our first schedule with 4 lines, 3 lines around the hamlets, and 1 line into the center, the dark blue line. Yeah, and we drove these lines in a different rhythm during the week. It's the next chart. So you can see the following of the lines during the week from Monday to Saturday. We drive every day. Yeah. Go to the next, please. A special feature, our bus can also be stopped on the route by waving with this card or with the hand. And that saves us a lot of stops. And then it's an extra service for our passengers. Yeah, go next. A special thing, also a special feature is a transport network in our region. We actually wanted to ride with them in this network, but the access requirements would have been so expensive for us, about 15,000 euros. So we decided to drive on our own. In Germany, it's possible to do a Bürgerbus without any permissions, I will say. And so we stick to the tariffs. We are able to set our own fare. Instead of the €2.40 of the transport network, we had our own price of €1. Yeah. Next, please. We can go through these charts a little slower. These are faster. Yeah, please go more. Yeah. Go. Yeah. You can see here the after 6 months we looked about our passengers, and the orange ones are the ones with the tickets of the official transport, and so we accepted these, and the others, the dark blue one, are the ones who paid for our bus. Yeah. So go further, please. Our marketing themes, and yeah, all of our bus and is financed by sponsoring. Go further, please. Next. You can see one of our stops. Yeah, training of our drivers. Yeah, the training. Next, the drivers themselves. Yeah, next. Opening the training with the wheelchair user for all our drivers. Yeah, and a training in a retirement home to show older people to get in and off, yeah, of the bus. Yeah. Next. These are just some expressions of the people, social media things. Yeah. After 1 year, we analyzed our schedule, and we analyzed the passenger numbers, and so we decided to create a new schedule, yeah, and some new lines. Go further. Next. Yes. Already, again, we drive on 4 lines. Every line half an hour, 1 line after the other, of 1, 2, 3, 4, and every day, Monday to Saturday. And now we decided to travel for free. Yeah. So, okay. Next. You can hear here you can see the schedule. Yeah. Next. And we have 3 types of stops. We have our own stop, you see on the left side. In the middle, the one stop are boards that we're hanging at existing stops, the 2 on the right side. Yeah, and next. Yeah, kilometers we drive are recorded in a logbook every day. So you have to pay 59 cents per kilometer. Yes, and everything in our association is done in a voluntary basis. Yeah. Next, we have about 26 drivers. Yeah, and the planning of the drivers is done by an online table. Yeah. And the drivers meet once a month to eat, to talk, to drink, and to have fun. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Some numbers here about the people we drive every day. The blue one is the interesting one. Now we are we have about 50 passengers a day, and it's an occupancy rate of 33%. And the next chart will show you. Next, please. We'll show you that 1 passenger costs us about €3.23. Next. And so we have a financial requirement of €3,000 per month. Yeah, and it's all financed by sponsors on the bus. you see, and we sold our stops. Yeah, you can see in the middle, and in the timetable booklet. Yeah, we sold ads. Yeah. Next, please. And the communities. There are part of the financial situations. Yeah. Next. Sponsors. Yeah. This is the area we of our actual lines. Yes, and go please to the next. And in future we will have a second bus and a door-to-door vehicle. And you can see the gray one, which is the area we want to reach with these two new cars. Yeah, go next. You can see it again, and next. And a new principle, it's about the hitchhike principle, you know. We want to install them with new, go please next, modular benches. Next. Next. Yes, you can see it here. It's a modular benches, and it's a point of travel to take a hitchhike, carpooling like this, and it's combined with a stop for the bus, and ideally supplemented with an app where the buses and the ride share are coordinated here. Next. So, and all under the branding of our main sponsor, you can see it here, the energy provider. Yeah, and we are currently in the development phase and want to start next year. Yeah, thank you. So sorry for the troubles, the technical at the beginnings. Yeah.
Stefan, thank you very much. And our apologies to you as well, because I know you had a very good presentation together and you've done very well in a difficult situation. Thanks also to Doina and Lucian for keeping the presentation going. Okay. We can see a huge amount of work has gone into this, the same as from Kilkenny. And I think people need to appreciate this fantastic amount of work in preparation that is done. And we probably find that message coming from all the other presenters as well. So now I'd like to introduce our third speaker from this session, and that is Marianne Pedersen. She's the project lead of the MAMBA project in Vejle municipality. So if I can please pass to you, and again, if you can please respect the 10 minutes. Thank you.
I'll do my very best. Can you see my presentation or?
Yes, Marianne, we can hear you and we can see your presentation. Thank you.
Very good. So yes, I am Marianne Pedersen. I represent Vejle municipality, and Vejle is a part of the MAMBA project. MAMBA is, as you can see, it's about maximizing mobility and accessibility of services in rural regions. It's a Baltic Sea region program, and it ends here, unfortunately, at the end of September. We are 15 partners in 6 different countries, and the budget is, yeah, as you can see, 3.54 million euros. Vejle municipality is placed in the southern part of Denmark. It is a large area, and it's not that populated. It's only 111,000 inhabitants. So there is a lot of rural areas in the region. As you can see, Vejle is the only large city in the municipality. And as I guess in the rest of Europe, the public transportation in rural areas is going downhill in Denmark, and the municipality needed to do something to help the local areas or the local citizens to get into the services in the city. The municipality also have something called flex drive or flex taxi. but that's a little bit difficult always to get hold of one. So they needed to do something extra, something special. The Mamba project is, in the Mamba project, we selected a small area called Smidstrup Skærup. It's 780 inhabitants. There's a school, a kindergarten, and a very active sports club. There is one bus going through the city a day, and it's twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon, and the last bus leaves Vejle at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Smidstrup is placed rather in the center of 3 larger cities, Vejle, Fredericia, and Kolding. And the pilot and the mobility center in the Mamba project is a ride-sharing solution with a full connection into our national travel planner, where all our bus and train timetables are active, or you can see them online. And you can also book a ticket and everything in there. So the project is to combine the ride-sharing solution, which is the pilot, with a travel planner. So where did we start? We did a survey. We asked the people, how do you get to work? Sorry, it's in Danish. How many live in your household? How many cars do you have? Have you ever tried ride sharing? As you can see, the red is no, so it's not that many. And we also ask what motivates you to drive with others, because we are pushing people out of their comfort zone with this. As you can also see, the yellow one is 2 cars, so they have a lot of cars, and a lot of them have both 3 and 4 cars. But the main reason why people should go together was actually to save some money. So I guess that was that's a good starting point. So where did we start? We in every small area, small city in Denmark, we have a local council, which is elected by the citizens, and that's always a good place to start. And we did. We talked with them. We had meetings, and we had presentations, and we went to a summer sports festival and talked with people, actually trying to engage them into this project, listening to them. What do they want? How could they see this solution created? Because we did the specification after all this work for how the solution was going to be. And then we did a lot of development and came up with a solution that we implemented in the area. And the way we did that was by a lot of marketing on Facebook, because that's how to reach people the best way. We did some events in the local supermarket, as you can see here. The pictures, we had a lot of presents that we say, okay, if you sign on to this ride-sharing app, we give you this basket. And then, actually there was a lot of people doing that. So we think we did very well. I also went to the sports arena and talked with people and saying, and they came back with, can you do this? And so we really tried to engage the local people in getting this to work. We developed the solution with a local Vejle company called Nabogo. And the concept is ride sharing as a part of the public transportation, because ride sharing alone can do a lot, but if we work together with public transportation companies, it gets even better. The business model for Nabogo is that they sell the solution to municipalities and traffic companies, and then they start implementing in the local areas, in companies, in educational institutions, just to get this critical amount of users and drivers to get this to work. little technique is that we can combine trips. So we can say I start from home and then I take a ride sharing into the bus and I take the bus further. So all this is combined in the solution. We take the bus timetable and maybe we take the train timetable as well, and then we combine it to a final trip to ease the communication between the driver and the passenger. We have fixed meeting points, so the passenger know where to start and the driver know where to go. We don't have to look after a person with red glasses and a black jacket. We know exactly where they are. These meeting points are only online because it's not allowed in Denmark to use the public bus stop places. So everything is online. These meeting points also make it very easy to automatically calculate the payment for the trip, because you know exactly where you start and you know exactly where you stop. And if you, as a passenger, for instance, are waiting for a car, you can see on the solution, well, okay, he's on his way, so he's coming or she is coming. So we have really tried to make the journey in the solution very easy. And the payment is also done via the solution. So that is, you don't have to pay in the car, it's actually done automatically. Because we have agreements with municipalities and traffic companies, Navigo don't earn any, they don't get a cut of the payment between the driver and the passenger. It's completely free. A little statistics, as you can see, it goes very well. We are now in 25 municipalities, so starting in Vejle and going out to 25, I think that's very good. The conclusion is that the public partners are very happy, the public transportation companies are very happy, but it's very, very difficult to convince people to leave their comfort zone and step into another car instead of taking their own car. So it's a large, big change process that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marianne. And I think what we see in all three presentations is the importance and the big effort you all make to talk to people, to reach out to them. And I think we might pick up on this within the discussion. Before we move to the discussion, and first of all, a big thank you to our three presenters. I think, Doina, Lucia, you might put up the first or the second of the poll questions. Okay, thank you. You should all be able to see a poll question right now. So what we're asking you to do is just reflect. Are any of the following factors a significant challenge to implementing a rural mobility service in your country? And you can select a few of these. And by significant, we mean that you have to put in a very large amount of effort to do it, or maybe you have to compromise and you can't do all of that you want, or maybe there's even something that you wish to do and couldn't do because of these. So there's 5 factors there: the regulations and so forth, getting permissions to operate, getting the funds to set up and operate a service, getting support from the community and the local stakeholders, finding suitable operators for the service, or the attitudes of the existing agencies or established transport operators. So if you think any of those are a significant challenge, then you might tick those, maximum 3, please. So we leave that open for about 30-45 seconds. In the meantime, our 3 panelists, Declan, Stefan, and Marianne, maybe you could activate your cameras and we'll all join in be ready to join the discussion.
I think we can close the poll now. And yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's interesting. An even spread. No one item stands out as being a major challenge, But 4 of the 5 items, half of you consider that these are challenges of some form or other. And the one area that doesn't seem to be a big problem is finding suitable operators. Quarter of you do find that as an issue, but it's not on the same league as the others. That's really good food for thought. Thank you very much for everybody who's joined in that. If we could please move to the Q&A side now. Okay, we have our 4 panelists. Thank you very much. Again, big compliment on your presentations. They were really good, very sharp and to the point. We have some questions from the audience, and I'd like to start with those. So there's one question for Declan so far. I don't know, maybe another 1 or 2 will come in, and 3 for Stefan. So maybe if we start with Stefan, there's 3 questions came to you. You may have seen them already in your chat line. The first, I'll give you all 3 together, so then you can answer. The first question was, how much annually do your sponsors contribute to the project? The second is that in Germany, is it a problem to have elderly drivers who may be more at risk from COVID? And the third is, how do you plan to keep your volunteers motivated during the summertime? Your microphone, please, Stefan.
I'll start with the third question, the motivation about our drivers. Yeah, they are all over the year motivated. Yeah, during the Corona lockdown, it was horrible for them. So it was no problem to start. But there are about 5 or 6 drivers who, of this older group, who don't want to drive till now. But I think in the next month it will be the full team. Yeah. The risks.
And the third question was the sponsorship.
The risk.
How much annually do your sponsors contribute?
Yeah, we made how do you call a channel between the driver and the passengers, so it's really safe, and all our passengers have to take a mask. And we reduced the numbers of passengers about from 8 to 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, no, Germany, no, no problem.
No problem.
Okay.
Declan, there's a question for you. How was the interest of the local transport companies in Kilkenny achieved and maintained?
Well, I suppose we have relationships going back a long time, particularly through Ringerlink. They would have relationships with a lot of providers. What was crucial in this was to get people who had licensed routes, scheduled routes, fixed corridor routes. That was the key to it. And there's a limited number of those. And essentially, I suppose we just made approaches directly. So we would know. JJ Cabin is by far the largest of those, and it was quite important that we engage with him for a couple of reasons. There is a JJ Cabin as well as the company. The company is called JJ Cabin, and that's the grandfather, back about 40, 50 years ago. But the current JJ would have the resources to invest, because most of the funding we were talking about was going to be coming from a leader fund, but there's match funding requirements there, so it needed to be someone who could match it. So we made a proposal to Cabinets. They saw the benefits in that investment for them, and they took it up very readily. We also made approaches to 3 other local operators, smaller operators, and for various reasons they didn't engage. Some of them just that they didn't quite get it, understand it. Probably a flaw with our explanation maybe, but also I think some of them saw it as being a little bit abstract for them currently, and also there would be some funding implications, although it would be quite minor for them.
So a lot of this is about relationship building, persistence, but maybe also that if you can get at least one on board and you can implement and demonstrate, then the others, now I get it, now I see what it's about.
That's exactly it. So if cabinets do it and do well at it, they'll want to be involved, and we would be open to involve them very much so, because we want them all to be involved. And there's a bit of that, it's like one time in my professional life, I was involved in running courses for farmers, believe it or not. I'm a city boy. So that was a bit challenging. So you could bring any academic you wanted along to tell them something about it, but they really only listen to other farmers. You know, so another farmer comes in and says, yes, this will work, then they accept it. Same with every profession, every culture. When a bus operator says, yeah, it'll work, you know, then they listen. So it's a certain amount also of I think being able to accept the rebuffs that go on for years and years, because when you're trying what are innovative things, people, you know, it's easy to, you know, brush you off as being, oh, you don't know what you're talking about or whatever, or, you know, that's a dreamer idea, you know, and then they become conventional ideas in the course. Of course that'll work. Everything changes on, you know, very, very quickly.
Very good. Thank you, Declan. Marianne, you're extremely popular. There's a raft of questions after coming in for you. So if I
I'm ready.
first cluster, I don't know if you see them, if you have been able to see them in the chat, but I'll read them out anyway. The first cluster is this.
Okay.
In Denmark, is data being shared between local projects, Flex Denmark, transport authorities, and operators?
If I understand data correctly, then yes. If it's with combining the trips, then we share data. There is also other ride-sharing companies in Denmark that is also linked into the National Travel Planner. So in that sense, yes, we share data. So you can see.
You're not standalone or isolated from the other providers?
No.
Okay. The second question is, how important is investment in ITS to provide services?
I don't know. I think it's quite important, actually. Yeah, because everything is is downsizing, so we need to invest in it. Yeah, and it's a big investment. I can see the next question is that about the business model, if it needs extra funding, and during the development, yes, it's the funding is necessary, but the business model is that should continue without funding, because Navigo is a private company, so they should be able to continue without funding.
Then there's another question for you. What is your estimation for ride sharing in the following months, given the COVID-19 situation? Do you feel that current users will get over their fears, or do you expect a considerable decrease in offer or demand?
We expect a decrease. Actually, quite a lot of the municipalities signing up early on has postponed a lot of this until 2021, because it's not time right now to go out and talk with people about ride sharing when everybody is talking about distance. So there is quite a hold on that right now. Yes.
Okay.
But the municipalities they're still interested, but it's in 2021.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, thank you for answering those questions from the audience. And I think that's all of the questions, at least the ones that were relevant to this session. If I can add one of my own, and this is just for all three of you to consider. In relation to the political and community stakeholders, we can see that you talk with them, and that's okay, they get engaged. How important is it to have their active support, both the political stakeholders and the community stakeholders? And indeed, have you a reasonable prospect of success if they are merely passive? Anybody want to pick that one up?
I can pick that up, because for our sake, for the project, we can see if the municipalities don't go in front of the process. The local area says, well, if the municipalities isn't doing it, why should we? So for that sake, it's very important. Yeah.
Stefan, you're nodding there in agreement, I think. Microphone, please. Thanks. Declan, Stefan, you wish to?
Yeah, I might just say, in Ireland and Kilkenny, it is important. It's always important to get the political class involved. The problem is knowing where the important people are in the political class. because in Ireland, the local government has very little involvement until now. It's sort of changing a bit in transport. So decisions tend to be made at quite a high level, far too high for the flexibility needed for something like that. So we would have talked to the National Transport Authority, who aren't politicians, but they are high-level officials who operate a little bit like politicians, as you might expect. The higher up you get in those systems, the more of a politician you become. And we would have talked to local ministers and people like that who would not have had a transport brief. I think the challenge is, yes, is to get support for something which would go beyond the pilot, go beyond the initiative. If you want to sustain something, if you want to build on that, expand it, replicate it, transfer it, you definitely need the support then. You can probably find the ways and the means to do a pilot. That's not always, but it's often possible. But it's actually thinking in terms of sustainability and best use of the money. Then you need to have buy-in. Now you can start something and show them and then get buy-in. That may be the way you have to do it. But ideally, what you have is you have a sort of a raft of stakeholders who are supportive from the start.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we'll close this session now. Again, big thank you to Declan, Stefan, Marianne for your presentations. I'll ask you to join us again at the very end, assuming we still have a bit of time for some closing remarks. Okay, so you might kindly turn off your cameras and microphones, and then I'll ask Claudio to get himself ready for the next session. We have three speakers that I mentioned very early on. We have Claudio Disparati, who will present about Tusk Understood. We have Cristina Caraberi, who will present on the Tricola project. And then we have two speakers, Eva Martinez, and we have Sila Gratteron, who will both present about the system in Valorana. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Claudio. Claudio is with MEMEX, but he's supporting TIEMA, who are the main implementers of this. So I'm not sure that Rosanna was able to join this presentation, so Claudio will present on behalf of TIEMA. Claudio is responsible for IT systems of public transport sector at MEMEX, but as I say, he is supporting TIEMA in the implementation. To you, Claudio, and please 10 minutes maximum. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Brendan, and thank you to my colleagues for the interesting presentation. As Brendan says, I present on behalf of TIEMA, the Toscana Sud pilot site in SMARTA Project. And first of all, I'd like to introduce to you who is TIEMA. TIEMA is the transport company which operates in the Sud of the Tuscany as Arezzo, Siena, Grosseto and Piombino areas, and TIEMA traveled over 30 million of kilometers per year, transport over 40 million of passengers, and the TIEMA fleet bus is present around 740 vehicles, of which 47 are school bus, and the service is operated with 1,000 of drivers. TIEMA operates several kind of services beyond the urban and public transport. As an example, the tourism, the school bus, the long distance, and the shuttle bus services. But the service of interest for the pilot site is the school bus. In fact, TIEMA operates in several areas and municipality of the Sud of the Tuscany, as Grosseto, Piombino, Siena, San Gimignano, Arezzo, and Valdelsa. But only some of these areas are involved in the SMARTA project, and these areas are Monterotondo Marittimo, Montieri, Piombino, Massa Marittima, and Civitella Paganico. We have chosen these areas because they present some similarities, but also some different, both from the scheme and the contract point of view. In example, the area of Montieri, Massa Marittima, and Civitella Paganico present a standard school bus services, whereas the areas of Monterotondo and Piombino present open to other users school bus service that are one each other different, because the Monterotondo service is funded by the local authorities, that is the municipalities, whereas the Piombino school bus service is funded by the Tuscany region. From the point of view of the contract, we have that Monterotondo Marittimo, Montieri, and Massa Marittima are regulated by the same contract service. In fact,
TM, in collaboration with Ibas, won the tender in 2018, and this contract is valid for 3 years. Whereas for Civitella Paganico, TM won another tender in 2019, and in this case, the contract is valid for 5 years. And finally, for Piombino, the service is regulated with the contract service concluded between TM and the Tuscany region concerning the local public transport management. The first objective of the pilot was to understand how TM can control all these school bus services and what are the most important information for the transport company. In particular, TM is interested to know how many kilometers has traveled by each bus and where are located at any time. And TM is also interested to know what are the most critical service conditions. But for TM is also important to provide the information to the other stakeholders involved in the transport chain, that are the public authorities, in this case the municipalities, and the end user, that in this case are the pupils' parent. For the authorities, TM can provide the operated data in order to that they can evaluate the compliance between the operated service and the scheduled one, and if the scheduled service is optimized. And from the point of view of the end user, TM can provide information concerning the real arrival time at the bus stop and the real bus position. But for TM is also important to collect the data from the end user and feedback. And for this reason, for all this reason, TM has implemented the CERSO fleet monitoring and reporting system. This is the TM solution because CERSO is based on a cloud infrastructure, and it is allowed to implement the system in a very short time. And in fact, in few hours, the central control room was available to TM and to the operators in order to define the service, to monitor the service, and to carry out all of the other activities. Whereas from the point of view of the onboard system, in few minutes there is the possibility to equip a bus with a commercial tablet that has to be equipped with a CERSO mob, with a SIM card to connect with the power supply. And in few steps, TM was able to monitor the service, to have a real-time communication between the board and the central control room, to collect the data and to visualize information to the driver. So we can say that in few hours, TM has the possibility to monitor the school bus service, to monitor the pupils get on, get off activities, and to provide information to the end user. For this aspect, TM has implemented an additional info user app beyond the existing one, that is TM Mobile 2.0, that is the app dedicated to the standard service, whereas the additional app is dedicated to the school bus service. And in this way, TM provide information to the end user about the real arrival time and the real bus position. In fact, the end user has the possibility to select a bus stop, to select a line, in order to visualize on the map the route and the bus stop, and the bus position. And furthermore, the end user has also the possibility to send a comment or message with the questionnaire. But another important aspect for TM is to have the possibility to monitor all the service operate in several areas, and this is possible with the CERSO, because the CERSO could be implemented in order to monitor one service for one area, or to monitor more services for more areas, as we can say in the scenario 2, 3, and 4. And this is an important aspect also from the municipality point of view, because during the pilot we have evaluated that the population of the area involved in the SMARTA project present a population quite elderly. In fact, in particular in Piombino and Massa Marittima areas, we have a retirement index that is around the 3%, whereas in the road area is over the 2%. So could be necessary implement in these areas additional service beyond the public transport, as the car sharing, the flexible services, the DRT1, and so on. And also in this case, Celso could be very useful in order to monitor his service, because Celso can work as a service integrator, providing also a knowledge dashboard to plan to coordinate the mobility service. And I said before, and before Celso system in TM was implemented another fleet monitoring system, that is the AVN system, and this is dedicated to monitor the standard services, whereas, as I said before, Celso is dedicated to monitor the flexible services. And another objective of the pilot was to compare, to evaluate the difference between these two systems, and in particular we can say that the system presents similar functionalities from the center point of view, but are very different from installation activities impact point of view. In fact, as said before, for Celso it's required only a commercial tablet, whereas for the AVN system it's required the installation of several onboard units which have to be installed and wired, and this means very high cost in terms of installation and maintenance. So in order to conclude my presentation, I can resume the activities carried out and the outcomes achieved. In particular, we can say that TM has programmed and planned 30 lines, 36 routes, and 300 trips per week. From the technical point of view, TM has implemented the central control room application, has equipped the 12 tablets with Celso Mob in order to monitor the bus, and has carried out training to the operators and to the driver. From operational point of view, we can say that now TM is able to monitor, to manage, and to control the fleet and the school bus service, has the possibility to provide the information to the end user, and has the possibility to control several services in several areas. And furthermore, TM can carry out the service reporting and business intelligence activity, and the drivers are able to fill the digital onboard diary. Thank you very much for your attention. I conclude my presentation.
Claudio, thank you very much. That was very good, very nicely delivered. Thank you also for respecting the time. So now I'd invite you to turn off your camera and microphone, and I would invite Christina to join us, please. Christina Caraberi is with e-Trikala in the city of Trikala in Greece. I think she was born there. She's a native of Trikala, and she's been working in quite a number of areas of telehealth, telecare, mobility, and so forth with e-Trikala for more than, for I think about 14 years now. I'll pass the
Yes, that is correct.
you now, please, Christina, and if you can share with us your experience with the systems in Trikala. And also, again, I remind you of 10 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, Christina,
okay,
we can
so hello.
Your presentation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Christina Caraberi. I represent the Greek city of Trikala and the developmental company of that city called e-Trikala. Today I will present you how our city has been moving towards a more sustainable mobility future, and more particularly I will talk about our SMARTA 2 demonstrator. Our city is the capital of the Trikala regional unit. It is located in the northern western part of the region of Thessaly in central Greece. Due to our geomorphology, the area is mostly covered by forest and grassy lands, and only 20% of the area consists of agricultural land. There are many mountain places around the city of Trikala and many rivers that go through the city or around the city. There's a population of 82,000 people approximately, and there are both rural and urban landscapes around the city and inside the city. The 75% of the population lives, in fact, at the city of Trikala, whereas the rest of them in rural areas around the city. On the chart on your right, you can see that the municipality is divided in 8 municipal sections that are extended in a total area of 682 square kilometers. Each municipal section has is further divided into local communities. You have to take into consideration that the key urban hub of the area is in fact the city of Trikala. It is the main urban and administrative center where all the commercial, residential, entertainment, and institutional activities take place. In other words, even if you live in a rural area around the city of Trikala, you will need to commute and drive to the city on a regular basis to do all kind of obligations you may have. Another important thing is to know that Trikala is a smart city of digital innovation. The city was awarded as a smart city in 2004. For more than 14 years, it has been working in close cooperation with Trikala, the developmental company, and has implemented and piloted many innovation technological services that have to do with transport, energy, healthcare, culture, tourism, and governance. All these innovative applications are managed through a control center, which is established on the ground floor of the city hall. You can see that control room on your right at the picture. The control center is also the place where all the data are collected, monitored, and analyzed. Some of the innovative apps and the services that have to do with urban mobility that are currently implemented and monitored in this control room is a smart parking system, which allows the identification and monitoring of designated parking spaces in the city center, a traffic light operation monitoring system, which detects any potential breakdowns and supports managing the municipal street lighting altogether, and an intelligent transport system that provides real-time information for the bus arrivals at the bus stops. Furthermore, there is an extensive fiber optic system, a public Wi-Fi, a LoRa network. There's a 5G network under development right now. I think it's almost finalized. And there is an open data portal with more than 80 data sources and an OpenGIS also available. As I said before, the municipality has worked very close with the developmental company in Trikala in order to implement different kind of EU-funded projects. Many of them have to do with mobility, urban mobility and transport. City Mobility was one of the most well-known one. It was implemented in 2017, and it had to do with testing driverless buses around the city under realistic conditions. The sequence of this project is currently Avint, which is currently being implemented. This project examines the possibility of permanent use of driverless electric buses as a public means of transport at local level. Through LV10, we have 10 electric vehicles and 3 recharging stations available in the city of Trikala, and we are analyzing the energy footprint of this kind of service. City for People is another project that promotes a people-oriented transport and mobility approach and provides new ways to deliver actually innovative and sustainable solutions that address the real needs of the public. With Harmony, we're going to provide medication supplies to rural areas during this summer via drones. And so is another project that will start at the end of this year, and it is a pan-European effort to support the deployment of automation in urban transport chains through demonstration of real-life scenarios that promote seamless and safe, sustainable mobility. Now, one thing that all these projects have in common, and SMARTA 2, which is a project that we'll talk later, is that they all start with citizens' engagement at a very early stage. In other words, we believe that the key factors when it comes in citizens supporting sustainable mobility solution, we need to have a bottom-up procedure, co-creation activities, and citizens' participation in initiative. Every time we need to implement a new mobility service, we adopt a bottom-up procedure at an early stage for each project. And in order to increase citizens' engagement, we organize several co-creation activities in cooperation with the local mobility stakeholders. In this slide, I have chosen to show you some of these co-creation events that have taken place the last 2 or 3 years in different mobility projects. Moreover, there are various other activities aiming to raise public awareness on sustainable mobility that are held within the framework of the European Mobility Week each year. We are very active during this Mobility Week every year, actually. Due to this kind of activities, due to this citizen participation of these years, we have a very active mobility community, and this kind of community actually have the initiative to find their own fundings in order to solve mobility issues that they face on the city by themselves. Lastly, every time we need, every time that we need to implement a project and promote a new service or some new mobility news, we use the local municipal website and the local social network as well as the local press. In addition to this, there are different stands where you can actually demonstrate and promote the brochures and the leaflets from all the project in strategical places around the city. Lastly, the municipality, the last 2 or 3 years, have chosen to provide people the ability to vote online in very important mobility issues and actually decide for themselves about all these things and for the city. As I said, SMARTA 2 is another project about sustainable mobility that we are currently implementing. The SMARTA 2 demonstrator is a European Union funded project that puts rural mobility into practice, and for over a period of 18 months, the project will support East Tyrol, Trikala, Gueda, and Brasov in setting up environmentally friendly and cost-efficient shared transport services. The aim is to gather evidence on the effectiveness of these solutions to facilitate, to see how this solution will be adopted and if this kind of solution can actually have an effect in other areas across Europe. All these interventions will be monitored and assessed in close cooperation with SMARTA. SMARTA is the first project that was launched in 2018. These 2 projects will use a common evaluation framework to collect evidence about the environmental footprint, the cost efficiency, and the effectiveness of all these mobility solutions that will be implemented. And based on the data collected by SMARTA 2, we will develop a toolkit of recommendations and lessons learned to support the implementation of shared sustainable mobility solutions across rural areas in Europe. More particular about our own demonstrator. As I said before, 35% of the population resides in rural areas around the city. What you need to know about this is that all these rural sites are underserved by public transport, meaning that the bus routes are scarce or are not very punctual, they don't come on time. Therefore, people depend mostly on their individual car use, and there are more than 50,000 car owners in this small city, the city of Trikala. As you can understand, this has a negative impact on the environment. It causes severe traffic congestion in the city center, but it also has a very social impact since there are many people that cannot afford to drive to the city on a daily basis, or they don't even own a car, and therefore cannot access essential services that can only be located at the city center. So through the SMARTA demonstrator, we're going to set up an online carpooling platform. In this slide, you can see parts of how this kind of online application is going to look like. This will include an online application that will allow citizens to access real-time public transport information along with available carpooling options to facilitate the connection between 2 rural areas, actually 2 villages called Magala Kalifia and Megarchi. The application will also include a booking system for services such as storage lockers, wheelchair scooters, and bicycles that are offered at the city's main square info point. In other words, if a person lives in one of these rural areas, that the pilot will run, they will no longer need to take their car. They can actually go online, see on real time when the bus will arrive at the nearest bus stop, see if there are any carpooling options available at the neighborhood, or offer a carpooling option if they can, and decide how they were gonna go at the city center. And as soon as they arrive at the city center, there will be a bicycle for them waiting because they will be able to pre-book it by the application, or a wheelchair scooter if there are people with mobility issues, or a locker storage to leave their belongings. So a person can actually commute to the city and by using any kind of sustainable mobility services and without using their own car. A very important part about SMARTA 2 is the communication and dissemination strategy that we have designed in order with the help of our other partners in SMARTA 2, that will actually have a huge impact, a large impact on the local community. One thing is important to know is that we already have a very active mobility community due to all the previous projects that I have mentioned. And we believe that this kind of mobility community will support SMARTA 2 as well. This community consists of members with mobility issues, volunteer organizations, bicycle communities. They will all play a very active role in SMARTA 2. In addition to this, we have already identified other important crucial stakeholders, such as the municipality of Trikala and the local authorities of the pilot rural areas of Megalokaliki and Megharchi, who will also play a crucial role in spreading the word and asking people to participate. Lastly, we have identified shop owners, strategic places, both in the city and in the rural areas, that they will promote this project via posters and leaflets in their stores. Some characteristics of our communication dissemination plan is that we have a target audience mapping, meaning that we have identified all the different stakeholder categories. We have adopted a stakeholder classification model, meaning that we have determined the type of communication activities that are most appropriate to engage each stakeholder category. The result of this is the screenshot you can see in this slide. We have a behavioral inspired communication strategy, meaning that all the messages, the dissemination messages and material that we are going to use should be relevant and meaningful for each stakeholder category. In addition to this, we're going to test a dedicated nudge and assess its potential in shifting behavior towards sustainable mobility. And so far, we have established a specific timeline of promotional activities, dissemination material, and all the channels we're going to use to promote the project. So far, we had our consultation workshop.
You have 1 minute, please, Christina.
1 minute? Okay. Okay, I'm almost done. So far, we had our consultation workshop where we actually we managed to take the support from all the crucial stakeholders. The application is already ready to be used, and we have analyzed our dissemination material. And last, the challenges that we think we're going to face is, first of all, if there is a lack of people participation, we believe that this will not be the case because we have a very active mobility community. However, we're going to have very frequent workshops and promotion events. Technical failure of the app, I think that will not be the case because we had plenty of time to test the app and it's ready to be piloted. COVID-19 was, in fact, a challenge we never expected to happen. It has postponed our pilot for 3 months, but now that the restrictions have been loosened, I think we're ready to go and actually start with our pilot. And the only thing we have to take into consideration is that during July and August, the pilot will have very low participation due to the summer holidays. I think I have managed to finish on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Now I would like to invite our friends from Valorana to join us. This is maybe slightly technically challenging because we have 2 presenters in the video, but I trust that Eva and Shilef will manage it. So I'd like to first of all introduce Eva Martinez Morales. She is the mayor of Valorana, and she has previously been a deputy in the Parliament of Catalonia. So she will explain the backgrounds, and that will be followed by a 3.5 minute video from Valorana, and then we will pass to Shilef Grateron, who is the Business Development Manager at Shelton. So Eva, please.
Hi, hello, Brendan. I'm very happy to be in this webinar. I send you a warm hug from Valorana. I have had the honor of being mayor of my municipality for 9 years, and the first years were very complicated by the economic crisis. This made us rethink the urban transport service and concentrate research on the lines that had the most users. But this caused some lines to be reduced, and this made the number of passengers decrease each year. In 2018, we again analyzed the mobility needs of citizens, and thanks to the Soler Sauret transport operator and the company Shuttle, we start the Valorana Connected on-demand transport project. The new service with a new wheel-ground image began testing in August 2018. The increase in users has been spectacular. We combine on-demand service, regular lines, and intercity transport. The result, more public transport passengers and happy citizens. Well, when Brendan asked us what we have learned, about this project, my answer is the importance of communication to passengers and the promotion of the project. Second, debugging testing to avoid creating false expectations for passengers regarding waiting times. The waiting times for the bus and the time inside the bus are critical. And third, the more bus stops, the better. The project started with 80 bus stops, and now we have 82 bus stops. The objective in the future is to have more bus stops. The main barrier to the project is cost. We have not obtained any grant for the project. But I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I present a video about our experience.
Vallirana es un municipio de 15.000 habitantes situado a 20 minutos de Barcelona. Tiene 110 kilómetros de calles distribuidos en 22 barrios, la mayoría alejados del núcleo urbano. Además, su compleja orografía dificulta la circulación del transporte público y no permite el uso del vehículo eléctrico.
Desde el Ayuntamiento, nuestro objetivo es fomentar el transporte público por la sostenibilidad del planeta, pero también para poder dar servicio pues, a aquellas personas mayores, jóvenes o aquellas personas que no disponen de vehículo. Estudiamos las necesidades de la población y hemos aprovechado las posibilidades de la tecnología. Así nació el Vallirana Connecta, uno de los primeros transportes a demanda de Cataluña y el que más paradas tiene.
Se pusieron en marcha 3 líneas regulares y lo que significaba una novedad con respecto a las líneas regulares, que es el autobús a la demanda. Este autobús a la demanda se ha puesto en marcha gracias a también la aplicación de la APP, aplicación de Shuttle. Esta iniciativa ha tenido gran acogida por parte de los valliranenses, pasando en el año 2019 a cerca de 14.500 usuarios que han utilizado el servicio a la demanda, lo que significa incrementos cercanos a casi un 50% con respecto al año 2018. La clave del éxito son las 88 paradas que se han dispuesto, lo cual permite una gran movilidad sin tener que ajustarse a los horarios fijos de las líneas regulares.
Es un servicio fácil de utilizar, ya que presenta 2 variantes. La primera es que se puede hacer a través de una aplicación llamada Shuttle, en el cual el usuario nos dice de qué parada quiere ir y con cuántas personas va a viajar. La segunda variante que nos encontramos es que Soleris Sauret ha proporcionado un número de teléfono en el cual el usuario llama, nos dice de qué parada quiere ir y el número de personas al que irá.
La aplicación te indica la hora aproximada de recogida y además permite seguir en todo momento el recorrido del autobús. Cuando faltan unos minutos para que el transporte a demanda llegue a la parada, recibes un aviso.
Yo cojo el Vallibús, pues me va muy bien porque desde donde yo vivo, el Valle del Sol, hasta Can Valle, que está mi cuñada en una residencia, me lleva, hago la visita a la residencia, estoy 1 hora allí y después me vuelve a recoger en la misma puerta. O sea que me funciona muy bien. Para mí es un buen servicio que tenemos en Vallirana.
Descubrí la aplicación gracias a una amiga que vive a las afueras de Vallirana y me la descargué y la uso muchísimo porque a la que pido el Vallibús normalmente tarda unos 15 minutos en llegar en la parada en que la indico. Y me es más fácil moverme por las urbanizaciones de Vallirana y lo recomiendo muchísimo a los habitantes del pueblo.
En cuanto al futuro de la movilidad, el desafío es poder tener un tercer autobús, un vehículo más pequeño que sea capaz de llegar a más zonas y así incrementar aún más las paradas. Y luego disponer de un park and ride en la zona del polígono industrial para incrementar aún más el uso del transporte público, tanto urbano como interurbano.
Thank you very much, Eva. Thank you for that video, which was very helpful and explains a lot. I'd like to now invite Sheila to join us. I think she's going to make the final part of the presentation And if you could try to keep it to maybe 4 minutes maximum, thank you.
I'll try. All right, are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, I can see the screen and I can hear you and see you.
All right, so hello everyone. I'm Silef Gratra, Business Development Manager at Shuttle, and I'm joining this webinar from Barcelona, Spain. And I'll present you the Vallirana Barcelona case study with the Vallibus Connected, powered by Shuttle, and with the participation of the Vallirana Barcelona City Council. So Shuttle is the solution implemented in Vallirana. It's a mobility platform optimizing service with on-demand sustainable transport. Shuttle makes public transit on demand. Shuttle is a B2B software as a service company and empowering transport operators, city councils, and municipalities to supply on-demand bus service, providing, of course, dynamic routes and flexible schedules. So in Vallirana, we had a problem, okay? And it was the technical dilemma of mobility, one of the many technical dilemmas of mobility, which is how to serve a dispersed and scattered area with inefficient public transport. So if we go deeper into the problem, we encounter inefficient transport in low density areas, suburban and rural areas with restricted access to public transportation, where people have limited mobility options, and areas where people tend to get isolated, and of course, in that regards, 100% car dependent. So, but what if Vallirana could manage public transport to always be available? And what if Vallirana could move more people with the same resources? So this is the platform of Shuttle as a solution, which is the passenger app and the driver app and the real-time dashboard. The passenger app allows the passenger to request a ride, whether in real time or through a pre-booking or what we call a schedule a ride. Then the driver app, thanks to our real and potent algorithm, allows the driver to navigate through all the pickup and drop-off locations. And the real-time dashboard, where all the clients, whether it's the transport operator, the city council, the municipality, can visualize all operations in real time. Data. Data is another important aspect because we always say data is power, data always belongs to the customer, and we send weekly reports for the analysis of statistics and KPIs, just to see how the system that has been implemented in a particular area, it's improving the service. So to request a ride with the Vallibus Connected, powered by Shuttle, the passenger can do it in real time or schedule a ride through pre-booking and with a 15 days time window. So I want to tell you the story of Shuttle. Well, actually, of Vallirana before Shuttle with the traditional bus lines. And you can see that Vallirana had 4 different traditional lines running with one bus. And imagine the situation of the people in this suburban town with waiting times of 1 hour and 15 minutes, the frequency of the service only once a day, and there were areas left without coverage, just like in this picture here. So before, prior, and after Shuttle. Before Shuttle, the frequency of the service was very sporadic. There were very long waiting times of 1 hour and 15 minutes. They had 50 stops, and they were transporting around 25 passengers per day only. Okay, after Shuttle or the demand responsive on-demand transport, the waiting times improved significantly with waiting times of only 18 minutes, the traveling time of 30 minutes. Then we could we incremented in an 80% the number of stops to 80 stops. And now Vallibus Connected is transporting 60 passengers per day. So the Shuttle Vallirana transformation with fully flexible DRT. what is it about? Shuttle created a cloud of virtual stops with no fixed routes, no fixed schedules. Routes are planned in real time as per the user request through the app or a hotline, a call center, especially for the senior population who are not used to, use smartphones, and of course need help for requesting their rides. And people is now enjoying of shorter and waiting traveling times. So the daily demand, we saw how the ridership increased significantly, and the service started, as you can see in the chart, in summer of 2018. And in this time, in summertime, is when in Barcelona we have very few users and we have the lowest demand. So what happened is that Vallirana made a very good free launch and marketing campaign, which was essential to reach out to the people and educate the passengers, the population, on how to use the app and how to use the service and make the most out of it. So they had a guide, a person inside the bus explaining the users the service. And additional, of course, they handed leaflets and sent out leaflets to the entire population, and it was reinforced with very good communication from the city council. So the call center at the beginning was a key, because this was this hotline available to the users to manage people requests with their pickup and drop-off locations. After 3 months of implementing the service, the demand increased significantly, and it has been an upward trend with user growth and satisfaction. So finally, what we have learned from Shuttle and the Vallibus case is, for starters, is a new way to mobilize people in town. With the help of technology, Vallirana has made a very use of the resources. All areas of Vallirana are now connected with the on-demand service. There's no need for the use of the private car any longer. Waiting times for the service is very fast. Traveling time is very short with no long routes. And senior and young people can now easily move around town with great connection to the city center, which is the main part of the valley where all the activity happens. And I'm talking about shopping areas, schools, sport activities, hospitals, all where the activity concentrates. And well, now Vallirana has a more sustainable, efficient, and fast public transportation. And
thank you very much.
Yep, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Can you please stay, and if I could invite Eva, Claudio, and Christina to rejoin us, please, if you'd put on your cameras and microphones. We have a number of questions in from the audience. We won't be able to get through all of them in the time we have remaining, but I'm going to pick a few of the questions, and the rest then I think we may be able to answer after the event. So if I start with you, Christina, there were 2 interesting questions that came in, but if you can please keep the answers brief. One was, do you see public transport and shared mobility being used more or being used less as a result of COVID in Greece? And there was a follow-on question, which is interesting. Do you think people will be able to afford to run a car in future due to economic impact of COVID?
Okay. During the COVID-19 lockdown, of course, the public transportation was affected. There were few bus routes and half of the bus would be empty. But right now, everything all these restrictions have been loosened. Everything actually runs very smoothly. So I think it's more or less the same. I don't know if in the future we're going to have any major lockdown. Hopefully we may not. But of course, if there is a lockdown once more, the transport and the shared mobility will be affected in Greece as well. And about the second question, I think that it's not about the economic impact of COVID. We're in a country that had financial depression for the last 10 years. So if some people were to be affected, have already been affected. I don't think they were waiting for COVID-19 to be affected. However, I think that it is not, we should not wait for people to stop using their cars and use sustainable mobility because they cannot afford their cars. I think we should focus on creating attractive services that people would choose rather than take their cars, although they can afford it.
Okay, thank you. Eva, there's a few questions came in kind of on the same theme. was during the lockdown, were the DRT services in Spain used for delivering food, medicine, and so forth instead of carrying passengers? In fact, did you shut down for a while during the lockdown period?
So sorry, I don't understand the question, Brendan. Is she left?
No, the service didn't stop. It's still running, so it never stopped during the COVID times.
And at any stage was the service also used to deliver, let us say, food or medicines and so forth to people who were required to isolate instead of the normal carrying passengers, or in addition to?
No, actually, no. The demand increased a little bit, but right now, after like going back to the new normal, the demand is still the same as before the coronavirus.
And another question there for both Eva and Silef together. How does it work? How does the service work in Spain if people don't have access to technology or smartphones?
Okay, so what we do with the help of the city councils or the cities is that they provide a hotline or a call center for the people or the senior population to call and request their ride. Like we don't have a door-to-door solution, but because we can create as many virtual stops as the customer or the city requires, then it's almost like a door-to-door. So, but a hotline, it's always available and connected with the system.
And a final question for you, Silef. Does the app plan the route automatically, or does the call center plan it?
No, it's the algorithm that has all the magic, telling the driver what to do, who to pick up, who to drop off, when, optimizing waiting times for all passengers. And that's about it. It's the algorithm that does it all.
Okay, thank you very much. We're very close to the end of time and we need to keep a few minutes to mention about the third webinar. So I'd like to thank you all very much again, Claudio, Cristina, Eva, Silef, and also thanks to our earlier speakers, Declan, Stefan, and Marianne, for really, really good presentations and the work you've put into this. So now I'd like to pass the presentation back to Lucia and Doina, who will close out. And again, thanks to everybody who has participated and who has joined us on, virtually for the webinar. Bye.
Bye.
I thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, first of all, Brendan, for this tour de force. It was very interesting as an attendee to hear all this lovely presentation. And it once more it gives me the let's say the pleasure to see that the discussion is driven towards the social aspect, you know, and how the interaction between different let's say different layers have to be integrated in designing, operating, and even evaluating a system of rural mobility, a scheme of rural mobility. It's very, very, very interesting for me to see that starting from the politicians, you know, how you try to convince politicians to invest in a mobility scheme, to let's say the key messages and the way do you try to interact and address the issues and the needs of people in rural mobility needs to be very carefully addressed. This is a pleasure for me because the third webinar that we are organizing this series, you know, of Time to Act, which is in fact a continuation of the Time to Rethink brand that we launched at the beginning of SMARTA. This webinar will concentrate mainly on the social aspects, and it's the social dimension that of providing mobility in rural areas. And this provision of mobility for diverse rural population, it is a challenge, as we could hear, but it's also an opportunity to improve the different mobility levels, and this will increase the welfare and it will increase the well-being of rural areas. The next webinar will be organized by us together with the Vectors team, and we'll have a very good presentations. I must say that I'm trying to anticipate the lovely presentation from my colleagues across Europe. We'll have experiences from Scotland, from Romania, from Belgium, France, and Austria. Lori Pickup of Vectos will chair the discussions on 15th of July at 3 o'clock again. Please register to the webinar. I think the registration is still it's on. I think if my yes, it is a registration link there, and please follow all the informations and all the follow us on website on Rural Share Mobility and on the social media, because there you can find information when all these presentations that we have put or we heard today, we will put them there, and you have immediate access to the video, of this webinar, but also to all the presentations. I would like to finish this one by thanking very much my colleagues, all the presenters for the excellent presentations they have done today, and of course to my team that works from Bucharest, Timișoara, and other places in Romania, but also from all the presenters that were across Europe. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon and a lovely evening. My kind regards from Italy.